Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week I'm hoping to get the railway lifting flap finished for the Model Railway Club. See you in a minute. Now I managed to get the wooden parts of the lifting flap finished. It's time now to get all the aluminium stuff sorted out, take it over to the club for a trial test fit and see if we can't get this thing out the way and finished. So let's make a start on the aluminium. Right, that's got the cross members tapped M12 for the feet. I've just trimmed the side rails where they meet with the corner board with this 80/40 aluminium. Taking those back a bit because this will just come down onto a support of some sort, I think. I'm not sure yet until I try it. But I've trimmed those at a slight angle so that should work okay. I've prefabricated as much as I can. I've got the legs made up into pairs. We've got the two uprights and a top and a bottom rail. On two of those, they're not fully tightened up yet because there's a lot of work still to do in location. And I've put the 80/40 aluminium onto the bottom rails as well. That's all tightened up. So I think the next thing, rather than try and assemble this in the shed, which it won't fit in, and then carry it out to the car, which it won't go down the side of the house, and then put it in the car, which it won't fit in. I'm going to take all the bits over to the railway club and do a last sort of tentative put together before I move on to the final finishing. So the first thing to do at the club was to start and put the framework up roughly, get a rough idea of how things would fit, whether or not all the calculations and theoretical work actually translated into a physical product that I could use. I have found out a couple of niggles of things that on paper you think is fine, but when you come to physically assemble it, it becomes impossible to do it. So there have been a few minor changes all the way down the line. But we've started off by getting the H-frame for the adjoining board sorted out first, and then we start and move on assembling the rest of the framework. And it's a bit difficult trying to do it one-handed, but I think we managed to get there in the end. One of the problems with this is that if you happen to get the bolts slid in and then you twist it without meaning to, you can actually put a bit of distortion into the rail itself, and that makes it harder to actually even undo, never mind do up. But as I say, after a little bit of work we got there, got it dry assembled, a little bit of persuasion with a hammer here and there. one of the problems I'd made for myself was that although it fitted both boards exactly as it should do, it really needed to be assembled with the layout itself being assembled rather than slotted in, because you've got something that was actually longer than 4 foot with its overhanging bits either end, that was trying to fit into a 4 foot gap. As I say, with a little bit of persuasion, we managed to get it all assembled. At the moment it's still only framework. I am intending a little bit further down the line to put some plywood panels in either side to stiffen things up a bit, and possibly on the far end as well, just to make the whole thing a bit more rigid here and there. But it's the sort of thing you can't really do until you've got the thing installed and see where any weak points are. So with the rough framework installed, I've tightened everything up, and then the only thing that was really needing to go in after that was the flap itself. One of the problems I had was that it was very close to coming up to an exhibition that we had in September, and they needed to have the track running, so I'd had to go over in the afternoon and do any alteration work just to make sure I could get the other board back in time to enable them to do their practice runs and things for the exhibition, which incidentally went well, and the layout got best in show, so we were quite pleased with that. And the more it got assembled and starting to get the flap itself bolted in, the more rigid the whole thing started to become. That's the first fit, and it didn't seem too bad at all. So a couple of days later, with the old track reinstated temporarily, I've taken the thing out and come back again, and we're starting now to lay the tracks. And again, because it's going to be altered later on, We're just using bits of old track at the moment that are reused stuff, so I won't get the decent job on it until we've finally got the far end re-engineered and we can get all the alignments right. But we wanted to get it in so that I could get a test done and show at least that it will lift and close and we can run stock over it. Just drilling holes for screws. We put little brass screws in at every joint, and then you can solder the track to it, and that way you get a nice solid fixing at the end that can be adjusted, but it gives you something that's a little bit more knock resistant than just pinning the track down loose. You can also see on the far side that I've put one of the clear plastic perspex pieces in that slots into the top channel, and that gives the flap itself something to lean back against and stop it pulling its hinges apart. When the thing's open, it will only open to just past 90 degrees, which in itself provides a physical barrier for anything from that side of the layout from going over the edge. I shall need, again as a further refinement further down the line, a similar sort of arrangement at the other end so that there is a physical barrier. We're putting electrical isolation in so that when the flaps open the track isn't live, but I have had instances in the past where somebody will take a rake of coaches and just shove them around the layout to get them back to a fiddle yard or something, and if that happens and there's a big hole, you can end up with a couple of £1,000 worth of stock on the floor. So we shall need to put a physical barrier when the thing is up. But I've got the track pretty much sorted out, and you can now see a couple of weeks later it's all wired in. We've got the little switches ready to isolate the track. The alignment is pretty much there. We've tried it and tested it, and I've got pretty much as far as I'm going to go with it at the moment, but it seems to be working okay. Right, so that's got the flap finished as far as I can really. It's going to be a process of gradual finding niggles and sorting them out and snagging things as we go on over the next few weeks. And as I mentioned in the video, the layout itself is going to be altered down that end, so there'll be a lot more realignment of tracks and things to be done, and I may well just pop in and put a shot of it in when it's totally up and running and finished, but at the moment done as much as I can. So that's another one out the way, and it's another one off the list. So I hope the video was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next time. We'll be doing something different in the shed. See you then. Bye.